He tricked her into inserting a light bulb into her body to satisfy her boyfriend's desire for extreme thrills, and forced her to keep it there for an entire month before removing it. Hello everyone, I'm Molly. Have you ever heard of the most unbelievable thing someone has done for love? Today's story is one of the saddest stories I've ever come across. I'll tell it to you while I cook. The girl in this story was a 20-year-old Chinese college student. She was just an ordinary girl. She had never been in a relationship before. She never skipped classes. She had never even been to a bar. Her world was simple. Besides occasionally going shopping with friends, she spent most of her time in her dorm room. Like many girls her age, she believed in love, so on her 20th birthday, she made a wish. She hoped she could experience a sweet and beautiful relationship. Her friends laughed and told her she was too traditional. They said that in today's world, if you want to find love, you have to take the initiative and meet new people. That night, she downloaded a dating app. She had no idea that the simple decision to open that app would become the beginning of the biggest mistake of her life. Among countless unfamiliar profiles, she noticed one guy. His profile picture looked clean, warm, and full of sunshine. His introduction said, "Someone who likes simple people, someone who believes in pure relationships." Those words matched exactly what she imagined love should be. Soon, the two of them matched. The boy sent her the first message. He said, "Your eyes are beautiful. I feel like there are many stories hidden inside them." It was the first time someone had ever complimented her like that. At that moment, her heart skipped a beat. They talked for 3 days, from their favorite movies to embarrassing childhood memories. He was gentle and patient. He always knew how to respond to every word she said. Late on the third night, the boy sent her a voice message. His deep, magnetic voice told her, "Be my princess." The girl hid under her blanket and played that voice message 3 times. Then she typed one word. Okay. On the day they met, she carefully put on a new dress she had just bought. It was a very modest style, but she thought she looked beautiful. The boy was even taller than he appeared in his photos. When he smiled, 2 faint dimples appeared on his face. They ate hot pot together. He kept putting food into her bowl. He told her, "You're too thin. You need to eat more." On the way back to her dorm, he suddenly held her hand. His palm was warm. She was startled by the sudden touch, but she didn't pull away. When they arrived downstairs, he looked at her with an unbelievably gentle expression. He said, "You're really so innocent. I like that about you." That night, the girl couldn't sleep. She kept turning over in bed, thinking, so this is what being in love feels like. It felt as sweet as secretly eating honey. But everything changed on the 10th day after they met. The boy asked to see her again. This time they went to a hotel near her school. She hesitated, but he told her, "I just want to hug you." She believed him. After that day, he seemed like a completely different person. He no longer asked, "What did you eat today? Are you happy?" Instead, he started asking questions that made her embarrassed and nervous. He told her, "Couples do these things. You're just being too conservative." She began questioning herself. Was she really being too childish? About a week later, he suddenly sent her a picture. It was an ordinary light bulb. She thought the light at his home was broken. She was even about to buy one online for him. Then he sent her a long message. After reading it, she felt like she was trapped in a nightmare. He wanted her to insert that light bulb into her body. He said it was a way of proving that she trusted him. He told her to keep it there for a month. Her phone fell onto the bed. She typed, "Are you crazy?" He immediately called her. His voice sounded hurt. "You said you loved me. You won't even do this little thing for me? Do you really love me or not?" The girl held her phone tightly. She didn't know what to do. She only felt a heavy pressure in her chest. For the next 3 days, the boy kept messaging her. Sometimes he said, "This is something even my ex couldn't do. If you do this, I'll completely belong to you." Other times he said, "Fine, if you don't want to, forget it. It just means you never truly loved me." She admitted that she was a weak girl. She had never felt needed by someone like this before. She was afraid of losing him. She was afraid he would think she didn't love him enough. On the 4th night, she stood outside a store. She bought a box of light bulbs. At that moment, she felt completely numb. As if something was pushing her forward, she couldn't stop. She doesn't want to describe what happened next. There was only pain and fear. She did exactly what he told her to do. She thought he would praise her courage. She thought he would treat her better. But he only replied with a thumbs up emoji. Good girl. 1 month later, he came to check, and after that, he never asked another question. The next day, the girl started feeling uncomfortable. She had pain in her lower abdomen. She couldn't sit still. She messaged him. He said, "That's normal. Just endure it." On the 3rd day, she developed a fever. Even walking became difficult. Her roommates asked what was wrong. She shook her head and said, "I'm fine." But inside, she became more and more afraid. On the 5th night, the pain came like a huge wave. She curled up on the bed, biting her pillow. Cold sweat soaked through the sheets. At 3 a.m., she couldn't take it anymore. She called a car and went to the hospital alone. The emergency room lights were bright and cold. The doctor asked what happened. She hesitated and couldn't explain. After the examination, the doctor's expression changed. He said emergency surgery is needed immediately. Any later, and she could develop sepsis. She signed the surgery consent form herself. The boy never answered a single call. He never showed up. Her tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. The surgery went successfully. The light bulb was removed, but it had already broken into several pieces. The doctor told her internal organs had suffered severe injuries. There was infection and perforation. Although her life was saved, she might have difficulty becoming pregnant in the future. Lying in the hospital bed, she sent the boy a message. But she discovered he had already deleted her. His profile picture had become the default gray image. His introduction was empty. It was as if this person had never existed in her life. Only then did she realize she didn't even know his real name. She didn't know where he lived. She didn't know what job he had. The only things she knew were he liked watching suspense movies and he liked eating hot pot. And those were just meaningless details he casually mentioned. Not long after she was discharged, her story was posted online. She didn't know who uploaded it. Maybe he was bragging about it to another girl. Maybe it became a joke he shared while drinking with friends. Whatever the reason, overnight she became famous across her entire school. People pointed at her when she walked outside. Someone left a note on her classroom seat. It said, "Light bulb girl." When she went to the cafeteria, even when the staff looked at her for 1 second longer, she felt like they were laughing at her. Her counselor talked to her. The words were gentle, but the meaning was clear. They suggested she take a break from school. She moved out of the dorm. She rented a tiny room near campus. The curtains were always closed. The door was always locked. Her phone stayed on silent. When her mother called and asked, "How have you been recently?" she answered, "I'm fine," but tears kept falling. She didn't dare tell her the truth. She was afraid her mother couldn't handle it. Her daughter had been timid since childhood. She was even afraid of setting off fireworks. How could she have done something like this? Sometimes she looked into the mirror and felt that the person staring back at her was a stranger. Today, this girl has become much calmer. Looking back, her biggest mistake was not being ignorant. It was believing that hurting herself could prove love. Everything that boy asked from her was never love from the beginning. It was a test. It was control. It was destruction. Real love will never make you doubt yourself. It will never ask you to hurt your own body. It will never disappear when you need it the most. She won't say this experience is completely over. Maybe she will never truly forget it, but it taught her one thing: your body is your own temple. Never tear down its walls for anyone. If you are also in a relationship that makes you uncomfortable, listen to me. Leave. Leave immediately. Don't wait for him to change. Don't convince yourself that you're overthinking. Don't hurt yourself just to prove something. Your innocence is not a mistake. Your kindness is not a weakness. But giving them to the wrong person can turn into a disaster. She is only 20 years old. She still has a long future ahead. She doesn't know if she can completely heal. But she knows one thing. She will never hurt herself like that again. I hope that everyone listening today will never have to grow up through such pain.